feel like you have so many weapons on offense that it's almost a challenge to get everyone involved?
Yeah, it's definitely, you can't get everyone involved. I mean, you got to see how the game plays out. But you try to balance it out that way. And when you can balance it out that way and you have solid people and better than solid people at every single position, usually it takes care of itself. I mean, you got to see how the game goes. If you end up getting one-dimensional or you don't move the chains on third down and you can't stay out there, then things can get skewed. But if you're playing the right way, you're moving the chains, and the defense usually adjusts, then I feel it usually balances out and everyone has an impact.
As far as playing a team 3 times in a season, do you remember from last year that third game against the Rams, did they bring in something a lot different to that game than the previous 2 meetings? And you have to kind of strike a balance with this game, and you don't want to anticipate too big of a difference, but there might be some differences between the 2 previous Seahawks.
There's always a little, but once you know each other that well, it usually just gets, the game becomes more simpler. Each thing, you don't trick each other after that. You just, and usually teams are playing at a higher level by that third time. So it's very sound both ways, and it becomes a much more physical game. Usually it's based off of turnovers. But each team gets better at playing each other, and that's why it gets harder.
George Odom, is what he's doing on special teams what you envisioned, or is it even better?
I mean, it's what we envisioned, and now being around it in person, I'd say it's better. I mean, we were trying to get a Pro Bowl special teams player. I believe we did. He's another guy I left out who I think didn't have the right voting for him. But he was a Pro Bowl player, but I think before he got here. We were expecting to get one. He's played like that to me all year. I think he's leading the league in tackles. He is the same every single day. I'm so happy when he doesn't hurt someone out there because he only knows one way. And he's always walking that fine line in practice, but he's so intense and he works so hard at everything that it's so obvious why he carries over to special teams and he's the type of player he is.
Shut down.
Go ahead.
Have you ever had, you or another coach had talk to him about his practice?
Yeah. I talked to a lot of guys about that, but he's a repeat offender.
Leah Davis from practice. If you don't activate him, is that window only 3 weeks long?
Yes, yeah, he'll be shut down today.
So it's 41 years ago, Dwight Clark made the catch. I'm wondering if there's a play that sticks out to you in your childhood. You remember where you were when that happened, because a lot of Niner fans know exactly where they were when the catch happened.
I was too young to remember that. I mean, where I was. What year? 81?
82.
82. All right. I was.
Your childhood that you remember.
Like mine? That. I remember my mom giving me so much crap that I didn't remember that when we moved here in 6th grade. I was like, Mom, I was 2 years and 1 month. It's your guys' fault for not showing me. But no, the plays from my life I remember, I mean, Elway helicopter in the Super Bowl. That one was as good as it gets. I remember Eric Davis returning that pick 6 on the opening drive of the NFC Championship game where the Niners finally beat the Dallas in the third try. I remember James Harrison's pick 6 in the Super Bowl, which I thought was such a cool play. Same play, Antonio Holmes in the back of the end zone. I think it was one of the best plays. I got a lot, but those are the first ones that come.
Injuries, Jimmy Garoppolo will not practice. Ambry Thomas, ankle, won't practice. Flanagan fouls. The rest of these guys will be limited. Flanagan fouls neck. Aaron Banks, ankle, knee. Greenlaw, back. Armstead, foot, ankle. Kinlaw, knee. McCaffrey, knee. Kevin Givens will be full today.
You said Thomas had irritated the ankle yesterday. Was that recently or was that last week, which led to him being out for?
He had done it some time ago, but then re-irritated it in practice last week.
No, on your first offensive play, the youth check over the middle.
Second.
The second offense, first throw, sorry.
All right.
So you had Debo shift and McCaffrey shift, and I think they put on that. But, I mean, was that exactly how you, would have, I guess, drawn it up, the middle being totally vacated like that?
I mean, yeah, busted coverages are awesome, but, yeah, we weren't expecting to get him totally alone. but they just brought too many, and we just scattered everybody out, and so you just had to get rid of it because they had more than we could block. But we got more out than they could cover.
Kyle, Trent Williams makes left tackle look so easy. You can go an entire game almost without noticing him as a layperson. I know this is a tough ask, but for a layperson who's not understanding of the nuances of offensive line, what makes him so good? What makes him one of the best to do it in recent memory?
I mean, he's the most talented I've ever seen, and so that definitely helps. But he's one of the smarter players I've been around, and he's been playing a long time. And he likes football, so he watches it with not just to get through it. He enjoys watching it. He studies rushers. He studies who he's going against. He studies other people. He understands what we're trying to do, not just his assignment, but the big picture of it. So when you have aware players with experience who are more talented than everyone, usually that's a good combination.
Bosa said after the game that he talked to you early in the week and let you know that winning the league sack title was more important than franchise title. How would you describe just his whole outlook on this season in terms of that? The picture now is just the ultimate, getting to the Super Bowl and winning it.
Very businesslike, kind of everything he does. I mean, he thinks about whether he wants to go out to dinner and how much inflammation that'll cause to walking there, and how that'll affect his explosion on clip 62 in the game. That guy obsesses over every little detail, and that's why he's as prepared as anyone I've been around. And to me, I've said a lot, I feel like he's been preparing for what his job in life is to do since he was 3 years old. So it's a combination of all those things that makes him one of the best.
At this point, with Brock having played 6 games and going into the postseason, is there anything different that you do with him just in the preparation standpoint to get ready for a playoff game than what you would do for a veteran, a guy like Jimmy who's been there before?
No, I mean, we do the same thing for the playoff game that we do for every other game. It's 7 days to prepare for a team, sometimes 6, and it's just one game. So, I mean, the rules change a little this year if you get to overtime, but besides that, there's absolutely nothing different. So, I compare it maybe to other sports where I think maybe a 7-game series and stuff could be a little bit different how you go about that, but it all comes down to one game, 3.5 hours, and each team has the same amount of time to prepare, and it's your same schedule, same routine. Nothing's different than any other game.
My question would be more just from a temperament standpoint, or managing his emotions, or just kind of gauging how he's feeling, having not been in this kind of pressure before. Is there anything that you kind of keep an eye on just to make sure that
that he keep not making it more like those questions and stuff. It's still the same thing I just said. I know if we lose, our season's over. I mean, that's the only difference, but you feel like that almost every week in an NFL game. I think that's what's so cool about the NFL, because all 17 games usually do matter. I mean, I feel like that every week, and I look back to our last loss and, going back to versus Kansas City, and I feel like that cost us home field advantage. But at the time, you feel like that's going to be the game that keeps you out of the playoffs. And then the next week, it's always like that. So I feel like we've been playing playoff games for a long time, and the pressure's always on. And I think Brock takes that into every game. And this game, if you want to sit and think about all the outside stuff, I'm sure you could psych yourself out. But that's the only thing I would say through experience of it is, once you get on the field, there's absolutely nothing different. So whether it's a playoff game, whether it's a Super Bowl, I mean, all you can do is control the athletic sporting event that you're involved in. Don't make it more than that.
What, if anything, has evolved or changed about the way the Seahawks are playing now versus the first time you faced them this season?
I mean, just, we faced them a month ago, and, their defense over the last month, I think they're the 7th-ranked defense over the last 4 games. So they've been keeping people out of the end zone. I think they're 6th on 3rd down, so they've been getting off the field too. Their offense has been running the ball better here in this last month. I think they're ranked 6th in running the ball over this 4-game stretch. So they're playing pretty good right now, as good as they have been all year. And turning on the tape, they're a better team than they were 4 weeks ago. And it's not a surprise to me that they're in this position.
Sometimes you hear people say it's hard to beat the same team 3 times in a row. Is there anything to that, or is that just kind of one of those phrases that is meaningless?
I mean, maybe we had to do it 3 days in a row, but I look at it as we only have to beat them once, because there's no more in a row. Everything behind us doesn't matter, and it's a one-game season right now. So we got to beat them this week one time, and then that'll allow us to move to next week.
Ray Ray's been described by his teammates as when he first got here so quiet it was almost hard to hear him. And can you just kind of talk a little bit about how he's grown since he's gotten here and been such a vital part of what you're doing, especially when Depot is out?
Ray leads the league in mumbles, so sometimes you got to get him to not mumble. But no, Ray's been great. You know, he's been awesome for our team. The way he plays just so fearlessly, and the way he has fun out there. I mean, that's how he is in person. You never know what you're going to get. He's an interesting dude that everyone enjoys. But football's so important to him. He goes about it his way, which he's going to get there, maybe a different way than you're used to. But by the time his assignments come, by the time the game comes, he's a dude that you can count on because it's important to him. He doesn't want to let anyone down, and been really pumped that he's on our team this year.
Examples of how he gets there a different way than what you're used to?
I mean, he carries his own ball out there. That I didn't realize it was his own ball until he threw it to me, and it almost pulled my arms off because it weighs like 30 pounds. So he tricked me with that. Ties things to his hamstrings all the time. I still can't figure out what they are. He's got his own little routine that he does, and now that we've been around him, it works for him, and I just know we can count on him when we eventually get there.
The other night after the game, Bosa was saying that he pretty quickly turned the page to the playoffs. It's like getting a second wind, I guess, after a long season. Do you sense that in the team, that they quickly kind of turn the page, especially the guys that have been through it?
Yeah, I do. I mean, this was the first time that I'd been in this position and our team. I think most of the people. But just to clinch the division as early as we did was just knowing you're going to be in the playoffs was just different. You know, your goal is always to get there, and then you deal with whatever. And once you do get there, you try to make it the best you can. But to know we won the division that long ago, it's been a challenge. And every week you got to get up because you know you're still you got a lot to play for, and we've been able to do that. Last week was the biggest challenge because we knew how important that game was to win. We were expecting Philly to win and stuff, but we knew if we lost that game, we were expecting Minnesota to win too, so we felt we had a lot to lose if we lost it. And also the risk of guys getting injured too, because guys want to get to the playoffs so bad and do their best there. But it's not like you're just guaranteed to get in there and have all these ops. You're guaranteed to have one op. So you got to make sure that op's the best, and we've been working on that the last month, and I could tell right when we could tell the game was out of hand versus Arizona. I think everybody was like that. We're like, all right, finally, we made it. We took care of business. We did as good as we can in the situation we had. And for the most part, we stayed pretty healthy doing it. So I think once we got to that fourth quarter, everyone was thinking about it. We got home as fast as we can and just started waiting to find out who we'd play. And very quickly, we found out and realized we had lost today because we're playing Saturday, and we're ready to go.